I just want to welcome everybody to the annual Volunteer Appreciation and Award Celebration. I'm Brian Anderson. I'm the Executive Director for the Greater Illinois Chapter. I've actually been with the chapter for almost exactly a year right now. Some of you in the room I've definitely met, some I haven't. I look forward to meeting you all in this upcoming year. We're so excited to be live streaming tonight's event. Welcome to those of you who are joining from home. Viewers who are live streaming can participate and type in their questions during the Q&A portion, and we will relay them to Dr. Campbell. I'd also like to thank Vertex Pharmaceuticals for their sponsorship, making this evening's live streaming possible. I want to thank Cystic Fibrosis Services, a Walgreens Alliance pharmacy, for sponsoring the event as well. We have a few special guests with us tonight who traveled all the way from Maryland, bypassed the storm that's coming out that way, I believe, right now. And I just want to introduce them to you. One, Dr. Preston Campbell, President and CEO of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, is here. We also have Regina Shuey, Vice President of Major and Planned Giving, as well as Chuck Redmond, who's new to the foundation and works as a strategist for the foundation. If you guys wouldn't mind, I'd like for you guys to stand up for 1 second and be recognized. Now, before we get started, just want to go through a few housekeeping items. Restrooms are located on this floor, just outside the Crystal Room and to the left. If you parked in the garage next door on Federal and Van Buren, be sure to have your ticket validated at the front desk to receive a discounted rate. Once you get it validated, you have 10 minutes to get to your car and get out of the garage, just to let you guys know. So moving forward, I just want to introduce you to Lou DeFalco. He is a National Board of Trustee member and a Greater Illinois Chapter Executive Committee Chair, and he is going to be our MC for the evening. Lou DeFalco, please.
Thank you, Brian. I got to lower this because I'm not as tall as Brian. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here today. You know, we're really excited to host this event, and I think, you know, as someone who's involved in the chapter, and so I'm a CF dad, so I have two boys that both have CF. So Dylan is about to turn 7 later this month on the 24th, so this weekend actually, and Michael, who has CF, will be 9 in April. So I've been involved with the organization ever since Michael's diagnosis, and you know, as Brian mentioned, I recently joined the Board of Trustees a little over a year ago and have been very active in this chapter. And so of all the events we do during a year, this one means a lot to us to be able to say thank you to all the great volunteers and people that have helped us be really a leading chapter in the organization throughout the country. And so a lot of what we're going to do tonight is recognize certain individuals who we think went above and beyond and try to thank them. But just know that all of you that are here, it means a lot to us, everything that you do for this organization. And hopefully it's going to be a special night. And I think, you know, a couple of things that are different this year in terms of who's going to be presenting the awards to the individuals, I think will be really impactful and meaningful. So we hope you guys enjoy it. And you know, as Brian mentioned, we're lucky enough to have Preston here, and I'll give Preston a proper introduction in a few minutes. But first, I'm gonna bring up somebody else to say a few words and just tell you about some of the achievements that we've had as a chapter here in Greater Illinois. But we're really happy to have Preston and Gina and Chuck all here today, who came from Maryland, and hopefully we get them home before that big storm hits. So it's going to be a lively evening. There's going to be a lot of thanking going on. But maybe, you know, before we even start, just everybody give yourselves a round of applause for everything you've done for this chapter. So the first person I want to bring up to tell a little bit about, you know, what we've done and all the great things we've done here in Greater Illinois is Matt O'Connell, who's our chapter president. And let me say a few things about Matt, who I've known for quite a while as well. And so a lot of you in the room, I imagine, know Matt and have met him and have talked to him at our different events. And I like to think of him as Mr. CFF Chicago. And I hear a lot of chuckles because, you know, Matt is at virtually every event we do. He's always there. He's always talking to our volunteers. He's always thanking our volunteers. And I think a lot of people in this room have met him before and know the passion that he has. And he's really dedicated to the cause, and hopefully he'll tell you about his son who's got CF when he comes up here. But he's a great person to have. He's been a great leader for us on the board. His wife Colleen is also here. Colleen and I have stories that just go back, and I won't get into with all you guys. But I actually met Colleen on spring break when we were seniors in high school, and who would have ever thought that it's not what you think, but who would have ever thought that our paths would cross again in such a weird way when we both found ourselves having children that were affected by cystic fibrosis. So the two of them together host an event that started as a rap event to great strides, and it's turned into an actual event for the chapter, and it's one of the probably single largest individual fundraising events that we have as a chapter, and that's shamrocking. How many people in this room have been to shamrocking before? You see a bunch of people across the room because it's grown and grown, and it's actually a pretty important piece of our budget now. So I know this year they're planning to raise more money than last year, and they've done it every year over the past few years. So they do a lot for the foundation. And aside from that, Matt's a great dad to two boys, one of which who has CF, and he's a great father and a great friend. So let me introduce Matt O'Connell, and then we'll get on with the program.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you, Lou. So as Lou mentioned, I have a son, Brady, who will be turning 7 in March, and he has cystic fibrosis, and he's been the most courageous and brave little 7-year-old, 6-year-old boy that I've ever seen in my life. Every single day he does it. He wakes up, he never complains, he does it. And every time I tell him I'm going to a CF event, he says, "All right, Dad, is this the time where you're going to kick CF's butt?" And I tell you what, every time I tell him, "We're going to kick CF's butt, buddy, I promise. And you're going to be there for it, and we're going to have a great time when it happens, I promise." So with that, I hope that I have the support of all of you that we've always had, and that we can get it across the finish line. And I know we can. And that's part of why we are here tonight, so that we can take the time to thank you for all that you do, day in and day out. It really means the world to me and my family. For the CF staff, thank you so much for the tireless hours and the energy that you put into everything, and to all the volunteers and families that put in just so much time, so much energy, and so much passion from a day-to-day basis. So thank you. With that, I want to give a recap of the year that we're coming off of, which has been a very exciting year for the foundation and for the chapter. Starting with, in July, FDA approval of a drug called Orkambi, which is a drug that treats the underlying cause of cystic fibrosis in nearly 1/3 of the CF population, as well as the appointment of Dr. Preston Campbell as our new CEO. And president, and then to the passing of the EACT, which is the Ensuring Access to Clinical Trials Act. We had a big year, and we saw many milestones in our shared journey to finding a cure. So let's celebrate the great year that we had. And because of your support, the Greater Illinois chapter celebrated many great successes as well. Our very own MC and chapter board member and National Board of Trustees member, Lou DeFalco, the man with many titles, was featured on WGN following the Chicago Great Strides Walk. Did a great job of sharing all the great things that we do as a chapter and where we're going in the mission, hopefully to enlist some additional supporters as well. The chapter hosted the inaugural Bonche Awards dinner series at Grace Restaurant, which was a wild success, raising over $20,000 to benefit the Grand Chef's Gala. That's a brand new series of events that we brought on this year. If any of you attended, I'm sure you enjoyed it. We were able to make it to one and had a great time. The CF Cycle for Life event experienced its most successful year yet, raising over $127,000, which is more than a 20% increase over last year. And that's an event that Team Max was a large contributor to the big significant increase this year. I think I saw Steve Nipstein here. Oh, did they? The Adult Outreach Committee established a bi-monthly newsletter sent to the adult CF community with the purpose of providing relevant information they can use in their daily lives. That was largely driven by Laura Wise, who's here tonight. Thank you, Laura. Great success there. The feedback that we've been getting around just the attention to adults living with CF and everything that Laura is behind. I mean, she's a powerful machine. So look, if you see her coming, just look out. She's on a mission. The Chicago Wine Opener enjoyed a record-breaking year, raising nearly $20,000 more than last year, for a total of over $105,000, which I think was a 25% increase at that point. So those are some great events. The one that I think is really worth noting is Giving Tuesday. This foundation never really, at least in my experience, never really put anything behind Giving Tuesday. And this year there was a lot of focus to it around social media and just reaching out to the core donors and such. And it paid off big for us. So Giving Tuesday, for those that don't know, is a global day of giving to support charities following Black Friday and Cyber Tuesday, or Cyber Monday, I'm sorry. The chapter raised over $30,000 this year, which included a major gift. A major gift is anything over $10,000, and far exceeded the goal of $5,000 that we had for us this year. So that was a huge success. So, as I mentioned earlier, and to follow Lou's sentiment, thank you. Thank you so much. These successes would not be possible without all of the hard work from all of the supporters and the great families that we have involved with the foundation. I really mean it sincerely on behalf of myself, Brady, and the entire O'Connell family. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's keep it going, all right? And don't make me a liar. We will kick CF's butt. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I don't have to move it down as much after Matt. He's not as tall as Brian. Okay, so next, I have the distinct privilege of being able to introduce you guys to Preston Campbell, Dr. Preston Campbell, who is now our CEO and president of the foundation. And so before I do that, I wanted to make sure I give Preston a proper introduction. So, if you think about the year that we have, Matt mentioned some things nationally, we mentioned some things locally. You think back to the approval of Oricombi and how that gets at a much broader percentage of the population of people that are affected with cystic fibrosis. And you think about Bob Bell, who was our visionary CEO that helped get us to this point that we're at today. And, those are some pretty big shoes to fill, right? Everybody has had a chance to see, and if you were lucky enough to get a chance to interact with Bob, that he was, just as passionate and very much a visionary and very much helped us get to where we are today. Luckily, Preston is very tall and has big feet, so I think he has the ability to fill some big shoes. But all joking aside, I mean, Bob Bell stepping down and moving away leaves a pretty big void for this foundation. And there's a number of reasons why I believe Preston is absolutely the right person to fill that void and to help take us as an organization through the next chapter of our life cycle. And there's probably about 20 or 30 reasons that I could name for you guys, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm just going to try to hit on three of the reasons that I believe Preston is the right person to take us through this next chapter, and how lucky we are to have him, and how lucky we are as a Chicago chapter to have him here to tell us today, just for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, about where we're going as an organization, where the science is going. And it's not just all about the science. I mean, Matt mentioned about adult outreach, and there's a real focus on the community, how we're engaging with our volunteers, and how we're interacting with the patients and the people that are affected with cystic fibrosis. And I think you'll find that that's a big part of our strategy as an organization. So the three things the three top reasons out of those 30 that I think Preston's the right guy for us right now is, number one, his mind. So Preston is an incredibly smart, brilliant person, and in my interactions with him over the last 8 years, what I've come to find is that he's incredibly brilliant, and he's incredibly good at articulating in a very easy way for us to understand, us who aren't scientists, who don't have the same mind as him. He's going to talk to you in a way that you understand what we're talking about and what we're doing and what kind of progress we're making. So he absolutely has the right mind, and he brings kind of that background that understands the science to help us get where we want to go. Along with that, he's got a collaborative style. So Preston is very much a collaborator. He's brought great talent to the organization. He's been directly responsible for helping bring some of the other great scientists like Bill Skach and Mike Boyle, who a lot of people in this room might not know yet, but if you don't know them yet, when you get to know them or you get a chance to interact with them, you just see how amazing they are and what they're going to do for us. So all that is great, okay? So that's one thing. He's got a great mind. Number two, my second reason is he's got a great sense of humor. Preston, actually, he's funny. He's a funny guy. And so I have no idea what he's going to say in his 15-minute speech, but I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm going to guess that you guys are going to laugh a little bit at some point during Preston's 15 minutes. And to be honest, I think that's a pretty important thing. We all know this is a tough disease. My family's directly affected with it. A lot of other people in this room are directly affected or connected in some way. And sometimes humor is a way to help us deal with difficult things and persevere. And so he's got a great sense of humor, and I trust people that have a good sense of humor. So I like that about you, Preston. And the last thing to bring it home is his heart. So Preston, he has a unique understanding of the challenges that the people who have CF have to battle. And I think that that compassion and his heart for the patient is really a driving force behind what's made this organization great over time and what will continue to make us great leading into the future. It's a really important piece to the puzzle, and he's got it. He understands, and I think he is driven by, in my opinion, a very singular focus of the goal is to find a cure, for all people that have CF. So you're going to hear about the great progress we've made, and we're at an amazing point today where we have medications that are available to a large percentage of our population that correct the basic defect. That's huge, but the goal is a cure, and we actually think that's attainable. We think it's attainable. There's a time horizon behind it, but we think it's attainable, and not just for 95% of the population. The goal is a cure for 100% of people, and I think that is a driving force behind where Preston's head's at and where we're going as an organization. And for all those reasons, I think he's the right guy at the right time, and I'm very, very proud and honored to be able to introduce him to come up and give you guys a little bit of a speech about where we're going.
Well, Lou, thank you for that. I think you said it very well. Thank you all for coming. So I am delighted to be with you all tonight. I want to thank you for inviting me. I want to thank you for coming, taking time out of your evening to be here with us tonight. Thank you for decades of partnering with the CF Foundation to make a difference in the lives of individuals with cystic fibrosis. Thank you for making us better at what we do. Tonight is about you all. Tonight is our opportunity to thank you for what you do day in and day out. And so I look out over the group. Again, Gina Shui is going to die when I say this. I'm kind of reminded of relationships, and I just want to recognize some people. You've heard from Lou, who's on our board. Amazing guy. Rich Gray is also on our board, and Rich is here. Rich, why don't you stand up? And I want to recognize Bob Weeson, who has been on our board for many, many years. Bob, why don't you stand up? Has taken a retirement from the board, but made many contributions over many years. And I had the pleasure. And I feel like that we've recognized a couple of the foundation staff. Really need to recognize Brian and his team, and I think Aaron and Amanda are here as well with the CF Foundation group, both here in Chicago, and the rest of the national staff. Stand up, please. Thank you guys for what you do. I know that there's some caregivers from the local chapters here, from the local centers. Would you all stand up? Manu is there. These are the, perhaps, well, I'm not going to say the real heroes. We're all heroes, but thank you all for what you do. I know how difficult it can be, particularly in today's environment. And I want to thank Walgreens for helping us with the CF services, being a sponsor tonight, and being there for CF patients. Do you all want to stand up, please? And then I'm looking for Tyke and his group. Tyke, let's stand up the Vertex folks. Vertex is here tonight. So what I would like to do is give you an idea of where we're going, and give you an opportunity to ask questions. Does that sound like a plan to everybody? And let me ask about the timing, because we may be running a little bit behind. What do you want me to do here? Okay, so we'll be a little bit flexible. 2015, it was mentioned earlier, has been an exciting and transformational year. And I just want to say hello from Bob Bell. He is recovering from back surgery still that occurred in October. We lost a visionary leader who changed the face of this disease when he stepped down. I'm very happy, though, that he was able to see the approval of Orkambi, which now brings the level of brings CFTR therapies to almost 60% of the population if you look at the genetics of the population. And perhaps just as important to him, he was able to see for the first time ever, half of our population, or over half of our population, are adults. And think about that. If you go back to 1965, 10 years after the CF Foundation was established, that number was only 4%. So it's amazing that we've come so far. And when you look at the progress in the median survival increases decade after decade, less than 5, 10, 18, 33, 41, it's just stunning to think about the progress that you all have helped make. But I think that everybody in this room would agree that 41 is not a full life for everyone. And so the point of tonight is that we have a lot of work yet to do. And so we're going to talk about that and how we're going to get there. And so you would think that someone who's now a newly minted president and CEO, but they better have a strategic plan for the future, right? Well, thankfully, for many years now, several years, we've been working on a strategic plan, and you can actually see that on CFF.org. So if you're interested in our strategic plan, go on CFF.org, and check that out. But basically what we've decided that we're able to do and are going to do is that we're going to continue to do and accelerate what we've been doing for a long time, and that is research, therapeutics development, and care. We're very, very good at that. We've been well known for that. It's really helped create perhaps the most amazing story in medicine today. There's really none like it. But what was missing is that we haven't been helping people with CF manage all aspects of their day-to-day lives. And so we're going to take that on as well. And Laura, I want to thank you for what you're doing because that's directly in line with what this is all about. And so we've actually reorganized the CF Foundation. Imagine that, with 4 pillars, 4 divisions, 4 departments, if you're from academia, that are going to basically be responsible for addressing each of these areas: research, care, access, making sure that patients have the treatments that they need, and the community, which is basically engaging with the community and empowering the community and unleashing the power of people with cystic fibrosis to enable them to help us help them in ways that we have never dreamt about. And I'll go over that in a minute. But let me begin with the research strategy, because that's been our main focus. It's where most of our money is spent. A lot of you all are primarily interested in that. So let me go through that, and let me give you kind of the near-term strategies to start, and then I'll give you the long-term strategy in just a minute. The near-term strategy is that we want to go beyond 4%, 8%, 58% of people receiving CFTR modulators to 95%, 65%, 95%, and 100%. And combined with that, we want all individuals with cystic fibrosis, regardless of the stage of their disease, to have the other therapies that they may need to enable them to live full and healthy lives. And so if you think about that, and if you look at the ivacaftor data, we think that that has the potential to add decades to the lives of all individuals with CF. And if you start early enough, 6 years of age, 7 years of age, the median survival isn't going to be in the 40s, isn't going to be in the 50s, isn't going to be in the 60s. It's going to be in the 70s and beyond. And so that near-term strategy is robust and meaningful and is life-changing and really alters what we think about cystic fibrosis today. How are we going to get there? Well, this is the CF Foundation Therapeutics Pipeline, and I should mention, as Lou mentioned, that Bill Skach and Mike Boyle are leading this effort. Is your report tool to tell you where we are in this effort? And unfortunately, this is a fantastic pipeline, but there's no way any of you all can read this tonight, right? Is the print's way too small. But that's a good thing because there's too much on it for you to read. So what we're going to do is we're going to blow it out, and let me just talk you through it without the specifics. And the pipeline focuses on 6 areas. The first is really this game-changer CFTR modulation, which is ivacaftor or Combi, and the things that we'll talk about in a minute. The second one is bypassing CFTR to restore airway surface liquid. CF mucus is very altered. We want to normalize that. Anti-inflammatories, anti-infectives, and nutrition. The point of my showing you this is to basically tell you that we're not only focused on CFTR modulation, but we're also very focused on the other therapies that particularly older patients with CF are going to need going forward. We'll drill down on CFTR modulation. I'll show you one slide on Perion, which is now a Vertex compound. But there are exciting things with mucus that we never really realized. Science is telling us what's gone wrong with CF mucus, and there are clinical trials in Europe, and we're working with a program here that will basically normalize CF mucus to normal mucus. And then this year with anti-inflammatories, last year we started 2 new clinical trials, Corbus and Celtaxis, and we'll start a new one in the first quarter. We'll fund a new program in the first quarter of this year, which will go into clinical trials. And there are more anti-infectives than we've ever had in CF, addressing MRSA, multi-drug resistant Pseudomonas, B. cepacia, non-tuberculous mycobacteria, fungal infections. We want to make sure that we have those bases covered and then nutritional things. Think about this. We met with over 100 companies last year to see what they had to bring into cystic fibrosis. It's a lot of work to do that, but the promise in some of those resulted in our selecting them after peer review and funding them. And so we think that and many of them we're continuing to work with to get them to a point where we feel comfortable funding them. The point of that is that there are many opportunities for us to exploit going forward because the science is creating this rich environment. So let me turn to CFTR and remind you that potentiators open the door and correctors move the door to the working spot where then potentiators can also act. And our progress to date has been in 2000, starting around 2000, 2012, the first approval of ivacaftor or Kalydeco for 4% of the population. And then 2 years later, we added other gating mutations in R17H. And then this past year, we added patients who have 2 copies of F508del. That's approximately half of the population, bringing us to 58%. And this year, the FDA will rule on some more ivacaftor responsive mutations that have residual function. I don't know how that's going to go. I'm not overly optimistic, but I think there's definitely a chance, and that would get us to 62 to 65% of the population, depending on how that's done. Now, we about 5 or so years ago, the CF Foundation worked with Vertex to accelerate another compound, VX661, and gave them an additional $20 million. And that has enabled us to be at this point today. And so if you think of all the different mutation types in CF, they're shown here. On the very left are those that don't have any mutations. And then there's these 5 classes that we think about in CF, and I'm not going to go into those in the interest of time, but 661 is in clinical trials for everyone who has any of these mutations plus an F508del mutation. And so what that means is that, and the reason that means that pretty much this is treating 95% of the population potentially if we were successful with all of these trials. And the reason that's important is that the Orkambi combination isn't really as good as the 661 and ivacaftor combination, we believe, because there are some issues with lumacaftor that some people get some chest tightness. It really digests the ivacaftor portion faster than we'd like, and 661 doesn't do that. And so we think 661 is a much better pair with ivacaftor. And so we have all of these clinical trials with patients with 2 copies that it would replace Orkambi, those with a mutation such as a nonsense mutation that doesn't have a reason to work with these drugs, and then for those with residual function, and I just made that mistake again. And then and for those patients with the original G551D and other gating mutants. The good news there is that if we don't get FDA approval this year for ivacaftor, this program will give us the data almost certainly to give us approval for those, and we'll be at 65%. And if this group works, we would be at 95%. So 65 to 95%. I'm not confident we'll get to 95%, but I'm confident that the second generation correctors will. And what are these second generation correctors? The second generation correctors is a program that started 5 or 6 years ago when we realized we've done all this screening for the first generation that resulted in the Vertex program. We've learned a lot. We think there's a better way to do it. Let's start that now, because we know that if we don't start this now, it's going to be way late, in sort of bringing these new additional therapies to CF patients. And the goal was to treat 95% of the population. And so the idea is that we need to move the CFTR to the membrane and stimulate it with a potentiator such as ivacaftor. And the thing that's different about the second generation is that Rich Mattingly used to have this saying, it says, money buys science and science buys lives. Did you all ever hear that? And so that's exactly what happened here. And so the science taught us that there's at least 2 steps in the folding and moving of the CF protein to the correct working part of the cell. One drug addresses one. You need a second drug to address the other one. That's why with this program we're adding a second corrector, and you get significantly improved trafficking of CFTR to the working part of the cell for ivacaftor to work on it. What do I mean by significant? Well, look at this graph. So on the left are patients with 2 copies of F508del, the most common mutation. And this tells you, actually this is FEV1, but if you had this for CFTR restoration, what you would see that ivacaftor and lumacaftor would give you approximately 25 or so % of CFTR restoration. Ivacaftor for G551D gives you about 50%. Ivacaftor plus 661 and 152, which is a second corrector, triples this effect and may actually be better for these homozygous patients than ivacaftor. And so that's a significant jump forward. Those clinical trials are starting now, and the benefit is good enough that we're pretty confident that those patients with only 1 copy of F508del will receive significant clinical benefit and receive benefit from this type of a drug combination, where there's now not 2 drugs, but 2 correctors plus a potentiator, 3 drugs. Does that make sense to everybody? So we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars moving this forward. We're excited that Vertex is first to clinic. They've been a great partner, but we're also thankful that other large pharma programs and small niche programs, including our own lab in Boston, are bringing these compounds forward as well. We screened 450,000 compounds with the first Vertex screen. We're screening 6 to 10 million compounds with second generation in assays that perhaps are more informative. So I think we'll get to 95%, and we have the ability with the compound that we started investing in 15 years ago at North Carolina that Vertex just acquired to actually increase that activity further by blocking a channel that reabsorbs fluid from the airway, and that's this VX371, which increases the fluid level and allows the cilia to beat more rapidly. And so the benefit that patients receive from these drugs can be boosted even further through these alternative approaches, which are shown in Restore Airway Surface Liquid on the first pipeline slide. And so we're very excited about this, but if we're honest, we've left out 5% of the population. Remember, I said this gets us to 95%. If I'm not mistaken, 100 minus 95 equals 5%. And so what is this 5%, and what are we doing to address that if what we're saying on podiums like this, that we're not going to leave anyone without CFTR modulation? 3% of these are nonsense mutations, and another 2% have mutations that are very disrupted. And so the main focus, we think the seeds are planted to get to the 95%. Where we're focusing our efforts now are on this nonsense and rare mutation initiatives. And I'm happy to report that we have large pharma collaborations and a large academic industry collaboration screening millions of compounds for these nonsense or X mutations now. I know some of you in this room have family members with X mutations. This should be very good news to you. But we can bypass all of that and deliver RNA to the airway, such as with Shire, and that program is well underway, not in the clinic yet. And then we're looking at very new and very different gene delivery, gene therapy type of programs that would, these last two would be good for anybody with CF. We've committed $40 million already, 15 to basic science, and 25 million to new therapeutic approaches, including industry. That's pretty much in the last year, to let you know how rapidly this is going. That would get us to 100%. And you've already heard what kind of an impact that could have. But that's not where we want to end. Because when the CF Foundation was established, their dream was to cure cystic fibrosis. And that's still our dream. It's our dream because we would like for a patient to go in for a treatment, receive that treatment. They go in as having cystic fibrosis, and we would like for them to leave not having cystic fibrosis. Imagine that. And imagine if you can do that very early in life. They would never have the manifestations of CF, and they wouldn't need all these other therapies that individuals with CF have. Is that a crazy dream? Well, if you think it's a crazy dream, think about what we've already accomplished. And I'm not going to go through that, but we've done the amazing already. We've done the crazy already. Is it wrong to dream this dream? I don't think so, because the science is exploding in this area. The scientists and physicians in the room will tell you that this is where it's at right now. We've gone from nothing in 3 or 4 years to this is the epicenter of medical science at this time. And to explain it to you, you begin with a gene which makes RNA, and we've talked about putting in the gene, putting the RNA, which makes a protein. And if the protein doesn't work because there's a defect in the gene, which makes a RNA that isn't right, a protein that isn't right, and then you get symptoms, and in this case, you get symptoms that look like cystic fibrosis. And where we've been is we've been involved in treating these symptoms with antibiotics, pulmozyme, anti-inflammatories, nutritional supports. We're moving into daily therapies with CFTR modulation. We know that we can move into RNA transfer and other things that would be given less frequently than daily therapies. But this is where we want to go. We want to get to a point where we can actually use the molecular tools now that can actually change the abnormal gene into a normal gene and use the gene editing technology to enable those abnormal genes to become normal genes. That's happening in the laboratory now, in cells and in animals. We just need to get it ready to go into humans. Is it going to happen? I don't know if it's going to happen. This is at the dream stage still. Is it going to be soon? No, it's going to be decades away. But we're making those investments now. We've invested in 50 different laboratories over the last year to accelerate this. We've invested in one of the largest gene editing companies, and we'll probably invest in another in this year. And so this is happening. We're going to try and make this work, and we think that it can work. And so to recap, our long-term goals are all three of these: to use modulators to correct the basic defect, to treat the symptoms, and then to plan for the future therapies to develop a one-time cure. Let me end with talking about care, access, and community. And then I'm going to thank you, and I'm done, and I can answer questions. Bruce Marshall leads our care effort. It's without a doubt the Care Center Network, thanks to you guys, is really the model for chronic care delivery for any disease. It's really amazing what's happened in our care centers. The funding from the CF Foundation will be double in 2016 to our care centers than it was in 2015. And we'll also be investing in programs for well-being, mental health, to address anxiety and depression, which are issues that we need to be real about and help with. But we're also thinking very creatively about how we can change the model of patients coming to clinic in the future. We're working with Dartmouth and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to think of a day where maybe patients don't even need to come to clinic. They can actually get what they need done at home and then maybe come to clinic once a year or even less frequently. Access is a big deal for us. We've doubled this program as well because we want to make sure that patients have access to all these life-changing therapies and access to our care centers. So both at the federal and the state level, we have more people on the ground working to sort of make sure that people in high positions aren't making bad choices that adversely affect our community. And we're very proud of a new rollout of Compass, which is a one-stop shop for individuals with CF to have all of their access issues addressed, and for the care center staff as well. It's a very helpful resource. And then this last thing, and Mary Dwight runs the access program. The last program is this, we're still looking for a name. And so communities up here, it may be community engagement, it may be something else. We're not really sure exactly what the right term is, but it looks like this. Think of the untapped potential of individuals, adults, parents, pediatric individuals with cystic fibrosis to help assist not only the CF Foundation, but other individuals with cystic fibrosis. And we've hired Drucy Borowitz, which I don't think most of you all have heard. This table has heard of Drucy Borowitz. She's a leading physician in the field of CF who's compassionate about this space, who's going to help us set this up. It will ultimately probably be run by an individual with CF or a parent with CF. But what we want to do is we want to listen, we want to hear, we want to learn from individuals with CF, let them help us determine what programs are going to be helpful for individuals with CF. And so you'll learn a lot more about that in the future. This is our Adult Advisory Task Force. It's just amazing. And if you want to see where this is kind of going now, check out the blog on cff.org. It is really cool. One of my former patients just posted on this, and it's just really fun for me to see what they're doing. So with that, I want to remind you that I think we have a very robust plan to meet not only the research and care needs, but also the everyday needs for individuals with CF. I want to just end by saying this is important because we're changing lives, we're extending lives, and we could not do this. This is not the CF Foundation's work. This is your work. This is our work. This is one team's work. We do this as a collaboration. We do this because this is important. We do it because it's worthy. We would never be able to do what we do without you. So again, as I said in the beginning, tonight is about you all. Thank you for making this story possible. Thanks to those who are online and watching us via the internet. We thank you for joining us in what you do. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of individuals with cystic fibrosis. So thank you very much. And then I'll take questions if Brian will allow them. Yeah.
Right behind you.
Behind me has a microphone, so if anybody does have questions, please do raise your hand, and Carolyn will bring a microphone to you. Looks like you answered all the questions, maybe?
I don't think so. I think everyone wants to get home and watch a game or something like that.
No, they're here for the
Thank you.
awards.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Preston. Nobody had any questions for Preston? If we have any questions throughout the night, we'll save some time afterwards once we get through the awards. So no, I mean, hopefully that gives you guys a sense of where we're going. I know, from Rich and my perspective as being board members and on the board of trustees, we've got a lot of confidence about where this organization is going and the leadership that we have. And it really is a transformational time. And, if you're going to be a part of any organization, and we think of all of you, as Preston said, as you guys are all integral to how we've gotten to where we are today, and will continue to be integral to where we want to go. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I know me personally, I'm happy that we're dreaming big, and I do think that we all have a chance to be a part of something really special. So it's great to celebrate this with you all tonight. So thank you, Preston. And if anybody has a question, we'll save some time at the end to go through that. So now I actually have to go by the script and make sure I get the right people up here to do the different awards. And I think before we get into the awards, I want to introduce Amanda Czar real quickly, who's our Director of Individual Giving for the Midwest region. And a lot of you know Amanda and have worked with her. And so she's going to come up and say a few words, and then we'll get into the awards portion of the program. So Amanda, why don't you come on up?
Thank you. That is no small act to follow. Thank you. It is so inspiring to see how far we have come, not just in the last year, but in the last decades, because I know many of the faces in the room have been with this foundation for upwards of 20, 30 years. It's incredible. I speak for everyone in the room tonight when I say that we are so excited to have you, Dr. Campbell, not just here in Chicago tonight, but to help lead us into this vision for the future. It is a very exciting time for the foundation. Chicago is proud to play a key role in the foundation's work. From building relationships and increasing dialogue with the care centers through our roundtable and our clinical trial consortium last year, to launching the CF Adult Task Force, I think 2 years ago. We are pioneers ourselves here in many ways at the Greater Illinois chapter. And we are making great progress to build a stronger CF community across the state. We heard Dr. Campbell speak tonight about these 4 pillars of need, which is care and research, access, and community engagement. But I really want to talk about what's at the heart of all of those pillars, and that is the people. Because every decision that we are making moving forward is about people with CF and how it impacts them and their families. It is all of your passion and your dedication and your influence on the community that has provided the momentum to get where we are today. None of these accomplishments would be possible without each and every one of you, without your Great Strides teams and your event committees that meet long hours into the night, and I know you all know who you are. Your major gift donations, and I know Rich Gray and Gina Shuey were in the room. They toasted already because last year was really a historic year for us. We actually completed a $75 million Milestones 2 campaign, which is very exciting for the foundation. So we would not have Orkambi or Kaleido without all of you in this room. Our founding families back in 1955 only dreamed of the day that 50% of our patients would cross that threshold into adulthood. And that day is now here. So thank you. I'm going to echo the sentiment. Thank you for being tireless champions for all of those living with this disease. As we have heard, curing a disease is ambitious. And this year we have the largest medical research budget in our history, and that number is going to continue to grow so that we can pursue all opportunities on the path to a cure while still ensuring that people living with CF have the access to the care they need to stay healthy and to live fulfilling lives. So we need all of your continued support. We need all of you to go out there and help tell our story, because we are a community that has achieved remarkable results, and we need you to help get us to that finish line. So let's cheer on all of our award recipients tonight. I know that's why we're here, but know that each and every one of you are integral to helping us fulfill that dream and turn that dream into a reality of a cure. So without further ado, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm going to turn it back to you, Lou.
Okay, let's do some awards. Thanks, Amanda. And I think we'll get right into the awards. And remember, if anybody has a question for Preston, he's still on the hook. So you can still filter those up to the front. So this year we're going to do something a little different. So instead of, you guys are already sick of hearing me talking because I've been up here like 3 times already. So we're going to have different people present each of the awards that we're going to go through. And David or somebody or Stephanie is going to be up there to hand out the actual awards. So the first one is the Hero of Hope Award. So this award's given to a volunteer that basically has no direct CF connection. So this isn't a parent, of a child with CF, but it's somebody that doesn't have a direct connection and really is at, the forefront of helping recruit volunteers to the chapter, showing significant leadership, and really help, drive some fundraising and just advocacy here in the chapter. So Kim Nelson is going to come up and present the Hero of Hope Award. So let's welcome Kim Nelson to the stage.
Is this part here? Am I just speaking? Oh, okay. I'm Kim Nelson, and I'm honored to be here tonight. Very excited to hear all the great news that you've presented, and CF is very close to me. I have a great friend who has been fighting this disease for a while, and sorry, I didn't know I was speaking tonight, so I'm a little nervous. But anyways, my dad has been a great person who has been a part of the foundation, and I Got a Guy has been an event for, it's been 8 years now, and I want to present this award to my father, who has been an amazing advocate to the foundation, as well as getting people out and understanding how cystic fibrosis is affecting people and how we're making the money to help people today. So, Guy Niederkorn.
Well, wow, thank you, and it's a pleasure receiving this from my daughter, obviously. And but 7 years ago, we started on a little journey, and I won't be long by no means, but a bunch of guys got together with our little sausage group, and we figured out, why don't we have a little cookout and raise some money. And we started out with a little $10,000 contribution, and we're 7 years now, going into our 8th year, at $100,000 with a lot of hard work from the construction industry. Thank you. And we're really proud of that. And my wife Judy had a little focus on keeping it family, keeping it simple, and we're still trying to keep that. And as we grow and people are getting more involved, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So the little bit we do, I think it plays a lot in everything. And we met a lot of nice people along the way. Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. And thank you, Kim. Okay, our next award is Outstanding CF Advocate. And Casey Magner is going to come up and present this award. So, Casey, why don't you come up to the stage? Let's give Casey a round of applause.
Good evening. Again, my name is Casey Magner, and I'm honored to present this award to my son, Patrick. Patrick turned 17 this week. I joked with him on the way up. I said, Patrick, do you know I'm introducing you? Why don't we, get some jokes? He said, you could just tell him, look around in the room. The only guy who still lives with his parents. Pretty good. So just quickly, Patrick's one of 4. He's the oldest, sister Annie, and then his 2 youngest siblings, Jackie and our 2 youngest boys, Matthew and John, age 13 and 10 of CF. Patrick's been an awesome supporter, big brother, role model, mentor. And on a personal level, like everyone here, anyone who has siblings, and again, everyone here, they're an advocate for cystic fibrosis. That's why we're here. And in recent years, he's had the opportunity to take it to a sort of a more public level, and he's embraced it with vigor. So we're so proud of him and so excited to present this award. So Cheryl said I could brag about him a little bit, so I'm going to give you 3 quick stories just to summarize why maybe he got this award quickly. So in March, the foundation called and said, Jackie, by the end of the day, can Patrick submit an essay? Dick Durbin's presenting to the Congress, speak about NIH and medical funding research. So sure, he comes home, smart kid, puts together an essay, submits it. 2 weeks later, they called us and sent us this link, and sure enough, there's Dick Durbin presenting to Congress, 6-minute speech, March 12th. Go to minute 5, from minute 5 to 6:05, or excuse me, 65 seconds. He says, just the other day, I received a letter from Patrick Magner, sophomore at Loyola Academy, and sure enough, Patrick gave the CF story, all the successes, challenges, etc. So great job, Patrick. Secondly, for the last 3 years, Patrick's been fortunate enough to participate in teen advocacy in Washington, D.C., and there was actually a picture of all the kids on the steps of the Capitol, and literally the foundation does a great job in the morning or the day before. It goes for a couple days. They teach them the legislative asks. All these teenagers that are there advocating learn the asks and go around for an entire day meeting with Congress members as well as their staff members. So they have 6 meetings in a day, and they run the meetings. We're there watching, but they run the meetings. So congratulations, Patrick. That's a great day, and we're proud of you for that. Lastly, in this fall, he got back to school, and his history teacher said, okay, everyone's going to submit an essay, and the essay was about how the First Amendment affects your daily life. And you can either write an essay or issue a piece of art. Patrick comes home, jams out an essay, turns it in. Has no idea what the purpose of the essay. A month later, he gets a call on his cell phone, and it's a woman from the Anti-Defamation League, and they're calling to say he has won a contest. Apparently, thousands of high schoolers from Chicagoland area submitted either an essay or a piece of art, and he was one of 8 that was chosen because of the power of his essay. Now, the First Amendment is freedom of speech, but it's also the right to petition government. Patrick submitted an essay that described his experience in Washington, D.C., so they invited him, the league. They have the annual Freedom Dinner. They invited him to the Hilton. He presented to 500 adults at the Chicago Hilton, and they asked him to read his essay. So Patrick got up there, reads his essay. Of course, it's all about CF, a little bit about the right to petition, but he tells a CF story. He comes over to me, sits down as the next person's reading. He goes, hey, Dad, how'd you like my elevator speech about CF to these people who probably knew nothing about it? He had the presence of mind to understand his audience, understand his mission, and advocate. So, Patrick, we are so proud of you. Congratulations.
I really wasn't expecting to have to say anything, but I want to say thanks, Mom and Dad. Thank you to the foundation for everything that you've done for John and Matthew, for making their lives so much better than what it really could be right now. Thank you for putting on Advocacy Day and really giving me something to write about. I don't know, Dad, I didn't think you'd be able to give all those stories, so thank you for remembering all those. I have nothing else. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Go Cubs, maybe?
Great job, Patrick. Okay, moving on to our next award. So the next award is going to go to Outstanding Junior Board Member, and Matt O'Connell, who you've heard from tonight, will come forward and present that award. So welcome back, Matt.
All right, so the next award is for Outstanding Junior Board Member. This award will go to Rain Hall. Rain is an active member of the Junior Board. responsible for bringing in new sponsorship and ticket sales for Festival. Rain has also recruited her company, Enterprise, for sponsorship dollars, and she has run the Chicago Marathon for Team CF the last 2 years, raising over $30,000. So Rain, could you please come up and accept your award?
So last year I was invited to this as a relatively new volunteer to the foundation. I'm getting involved after my cousin Landon, who's 5, has CF. And about halfway through the night, being real ramped up, hearing all these awesome stories about people affected by CF, I looked at my sister and I said, all right, I'm running the marathon again, which I hadn't planned on doing. And 2, eventually I want to be up on stage accepting an award for what Landon's Road Warriors has accomplished. So thank you very much for making that happen tonight.
Okay. Next we've got, okay, so the next award is Outstanding Endurance Partner. And so John Steffen is going to come up to present the Outstanding Endurance Partner Award. So let's welcome John Steffen.
In the early days of the extreme hike, it was a little different beast than it is today. It was tougher. It was tougher for all of us people that were there in 2012 when it started. And I can remember when I was about halfway through, I was walking along with, I think with a CF nurse from the University of Chicago. And out of the corner of my eye, some dude comes running out of the woods towards me. And we're talking a sweaty guy with a beard and dirty and leaves. And he gets actually uncomfortably close to me and he says, hey, John, I think our wives are lost. And I found a tree we could go up and hide in and scare the heck out of them. At that point in time, I said, this could get fun. And it certainly did get fun at that point in time. That person was Patrick McKenzie. And through some latent backcountry skills, our wives found us. We never did get to execute on that. But I got to spend the rest of that afternoon. Gail and I walked with Patrick and Carolyn that whole afternoon. And I learned a lot about Patrick that afternoon. I learned that he was motivated to do this hike in memory of his cousin Joe, who had CF. I learned that he had done the marathon the previous year, and he was looking to get more into this stuff, to do something that he could include his wife in and his family in. And it was an awesome afternoon, an awesome walk in the woods. We talked about CF stuff and non-CF stuff. And for Gail and I, who were CF rookies, it was an epiphany. I mean, our niece had been diagnosed with CF about 8 months previous to that. And so we went to events, but we really didn't know what our role was in this whole thing. And the clarity happened that evening. These were the kind of people I wanted to be around. This was the event I wanted to do. This is why we were doing this. It all just kind of started to make sense at that point in time. And that, I think, is the kind of response that Patrick inspires in people. And so as the years went on, I've worked with him for the last couple years on the Extreme Hike Committee. He's brought in his cousin and his cousin's husband and his friends, grown the event wonderfully. I've been to his fundraiser that Carolyn and Patrick put on for the last couple years, which is a great September time if you're interested, in Frankfort, Illinois. They've raised $38,000 over the last 3 years at this fundraiser. And so I'm honored. I'm honored to be the person that says, thank you, Patrick. Thank you from all of us for everything you've done, but also thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. Good stuff. Appreciate it.
Patrick was nervous his dad was going to tell some embarrassing stories. I feel a little awkward standing up here by my lonesome, considering all the people that have contributed to the endurance program Nick's success over the years. Gail and John Steffen, Michelle, Katie and Tim, and my wife Carolyn. Now we have Joel and Katie and Michelle on the hike committee. So just thank you very much, and let's keep the fight going.
Okay. Thank you, guys. The next award is Outstanding Special Events Partner. And so Catherine Kitts is going to present this award, but she's not here in person. So Cheryl, if you could cue up the video, we'll have a quick video message from Catherine giving this award.
Hi, my name is Catherine Kitts, and I have cystic fibrosis. Today I'd like to thank my Aunt Elizabeth for being such a great role model for me and for being a supporter of CFF. Over the past 10 years, Aunt Elizabeth has helped with the Chicago Wine Opener, and this year was a record-breaking year for the event under her leadership as a co-chair. She is such a hardworking, caring, and loving person, and I want to thank her so much for all she does for me and for CFF.
Okay. So Elizabeth, please come forward and accept your award.
That was a little bit of a surprise. I'm sorry, now I'm a little verklempt. Thank you so much for this honor. I accept it in the name of my wonderful 20-year-old niece and goddaughter, Catherine Kitts, who is our inspiration in the determined and joyful way she approaches life and battles this disease on a daily basis. I accept it on behalf of my wonderful family. 2 of my 3 sisters are here, Kate and Peggy, because all of my CFF efforts are really a family affair, and I couldn't do it without them. And finally, I accept this with gratitude to the amazing team at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation who make all of this possible. In particular to Stephanie Michaud, who has been instrumental in taking our Chicago wine event to the next level and who has enabled us to reach new heights with our fundraising. It has been a pleasure to work with her, as with all of the amazing folks at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. It is clear they are accomplishing amazing progress and giving us all hope. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Elizabeth. The next award is our Outstanding Great Strides Partner, and I'm very happy to welcome my fellow board member, Rich Gray, to come present this award. So welcome, Rich.
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone who contributes as much as everyone in this room does. If you're in this chapter, you know that we have double-digit number of Great Strides events. The biggest of those is the Chicago event, and we want to thank Hal and Suzanne Lusk for being one of the mainstays of this event. They've been doing it through Team Lusk since 1994. During those years, they have, their team alone, raised over $500,000. The CF Great Strides is a great event, not only because it raises a lot of money, but it's one of the signature things we do to be in community with each other. I've heard it said that the Lusks are sort of the first responders to the Chicago event, in the sense that they're there at the get-go. They work tirelessly during the time that they are there. They do whatever is necessary to make it all happen. I know that they've worked so tirelessly for all these years because of their personal connection to CF. I know that they've done it on behalf of everyone who deals with this disease. But they've also done it on behalf of their daughter, Erin, and in memory of their daughter, Colleen. For all you have done, for all that you're doing, it is my great honor to present to you the Great Strides Volunteer Award for this year.
Well, Rich, thank you very much for those very kind words. On behalf of my wife, Suzanne, our daughter, Erin, and our angel, Colleen, we want to thank you very much for this award. It was, well, first, our daughter, Erin, is 21 years old now. She's a junior at Indiana University studying elementary and special education. And our daughter, Colleen, who also had cystic fibrosis, passed away 2 years ago, just shy of her 17th birthday. It was 22 years ago when our daughter Erin was born in March, and about 2 weeks later I looked up the address for the CF Foundation, saw it was right across the street, so I got up from my desk at work, walked across the street, walked up to the 4th floor at 150 North Michigan, walked in the office and said, "Hey, I have a daughter with cystic fibrosis, what can I do to help?" And they said, "Well, in May we have this Great Strides Walkathon coming up. Do you want to take a shot at that?" And I said, "Sure." So we raised $5,000 that year. And as Rich said, here we are $500,000 later, and we're still fighting the fight. Our daughter Erin is on Orkambi, and she's doing fantastic. I mean, it's been a real game changer. You know, just here we are. What are we? January now. And normally at this time, we'd be talking about, okay, when are you going to have to go in for a tune-up, and how much weight have you lost? But it's not happening. We're talking to her on the phone, we're seeing her in person, and she feels great. It's truly been a game changer, and it's great to know that drugs like that are here because of the fundraising we've done and because of the fundraising everyone in this room has done. So we thank you for this award, but we also thank everyone in here for fighting the fight right along with us. As it was said, raising the funds to buy the science, to buy the lives. So thank you all very much for this.
Okay. Next, our next award is for Outstanding Corporate Partner, and so we'd like to welcome Mike Balkin to come up to present this award. So Mike has been an incredible volunteer for the organization and done a ton for us, and someone who has no direct connection with CF. So welcome, Mike, everybody.
Thank you, Lou, and thank you to all the people who've come out tonight to support this great event. And Preston, thank you for the great update today. And since I first got involved with cystic fibrosis over 25 years ago, it's incredible how far that this organization has come, and it's become a model organization for the entire country in terms of how different disease states can work with not-for-profits, can work for-profit drug companies and such. So I think it's fantastic. And this award that I'm giving tonight is to a person who I've gotten to know extremely well over the years. This is for the Larry Roche Auto Group, and the recipient on their behalf is Dan Roche. And just a little something about Dan for those of you who may or may not know him. I met Dan about 12 years ago. When we got together, we were actually thrown together and said, hey, we're thinking of putting this event together to run a poker event for cystic fibrosis. And the two of us both had a similar idea, and we said, well, why don't the two of you work together? And along with Chris Walsh, our third co-chairman, we put this event together. And we didn't know where it was going to go. In fact, Cystic Fibrosis turned us down the first year we were going to do it, said it would never work. So, but finally they gave us the green light. We went ahead and did this. And I had a chance to go with Dan to Washington to one of the CF volunteer events. And Dan, for people who know him, he's a real happy-go-lucky, fun guy, you know, always has a smile on his face. But the one thing he did say, he said, Mike, we have to be successful here. We have to cure this disease, because he says, my son Dylan's life hangs in the balance. And so Dan has worked tirelessly over this almost 17 years that he's been involved with this organization, raising hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as my co-chairman in this event, we raised over $3 million over the 11 years that we've been doing this. And one thing I can say about Dan, I was excited when Kaleido first came out, and even though it only helped 4% of the kids who had it, Dylan was one of the fortunate 4% that had the mutated gene that Kaleido was able to help. And I said, that's great, Dan. He said, yeah, it's great, but we have a long way to go, because I'm not going to stop helping this organization until we wipe out cystic fibrosis, till 100% of people with cystic fibrosis don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's the kind of guy that Dan is, and I'm very proud to call him my friend. And so Dan, come on up and accept this award on the...
Before Mike leaves the stage, what he doesn't understand is that as happy-go-lucky as he thinks I am, here, stand over here. This side. As happy-go-lucky as he thinks I am, you know, that's a front you got to put on every day some days, right? I'll explain that in a minute. But every time I was feeling bad, there would be Mike, and he would just look at me, and he would just give a little nod and say, we're going to do this. And he would lift me up every day. He was my crutch through all this. He doesn't know that. He was as much a brother to me as my two brothers are. When my son would be in the hospital at Children's, which was frequently, he would show up, not alone, with his wife, his two daughters, and they would bring gifts, and they would hang out, and they would bring cheer not only to myself, but to my son. So he is a mentor to me and a dear friend. And I love him to death. So, thank you, my president. I always say that cystic fibrosis also gave me the medical degree I never wanted. I had the pleasure of going to Johns Hopkins, and I learned that I finished last in my class, by the way. But it was enough to drive the people at the doctor's office nuts, because I asked too many questions and made the meetings, the visits go longer than they probably needed to. I'm going to tell a quick story, and I will keep it as brief as I can. At age 3, my son was code blue in my arms at the hospital. They worked on him for 3 hours before they heliported him to another hospital. And I had to leave him that day on the top of the hospital, what he got in a helicopter. We were on our way there to the hospital to get him, to take him in, because we knew he was struggling. And he said, Dad, I can't breathe. And I said, Dylan, yeah, you can. I go, just look in my eyes. You look at me, when I breathe, you breathe. My wife at the time was driving the car. I didn't let her know what's going on, or we'd all be dead today. And when I breathe, he breathed, and we Lamaze. And we get him to the hospital, and I'm telling you, that moment was probably about 20 minutes long. My son and I connected in a way two people don't connect. To this day, we can look at each other and know what each one of us is thinking. He was heliported from that hospital. He spent 6 days in the ICU. He came home on his 3rd birthday. He wasn't diagnosed with cystic fibrosis until he was 3.5. He spent the next 6 months on the couch, very thin, not doing very well. Finally, somebody said, hey, let's give him a sweat test and check for CF. I'm like, oh, great, what's CF? I had no idea, all right? Since then, they made mandatory testing in the state of Illinois for cystic fibrosis. That is a big win right there. We can treat these children at birth. We move forward. He has spent countless times, 2-3 times a year in the hospital in children's. He's struggling. He's not doing very well. He's not gaining weight. At age 11, he gets a feeding tube. What a tough decision that is as a parent. But it was a good decision. Well recommended by the doctors, and they talked me into it. I'm glad they did. Talk about Dr. Bell, what a great man he is. I remember at a meeting here in Chicago, I stood up at the end of one of the meetings, and I said, Dr. Bell, you have worked tirelessly your whole life, as I know you, to cure this disease. You deserve this win second to my son. And you know what? I would like to give a big hand to Dr. Bell, because he also is an incredible, important man in my life. So time goes on. Things aren't easy. Life kind of has its weird ways about it, right? I changed my life completely to accommodate what I call, when my son was diagnosed with CF at 3, I said, hey, you know what? Life is supposed to be on average about 75 years, the way I see it. So they're telling me that Dylan has a life expectancy, according to that chart in 1990, of 28 years old. I said, you know what? We got to stuff 75 years of life into 28. And Dylan and I went on a life adventure. And I'm going to tell you, not only, well, we had a lot of fun, but I kind of put some people, I own car dealerships. I put some people in partnership places. I put them in management positions. I sold off a couple of stores. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to work 60 hours a week anymore, because I have to get this kid a life in 28 years. So we did that. He became a motocross racer from age 5 until age 13. It was crazy. He was the best soccer player, baseball. He threw a no-hitter. It was insane. Nothing could stop this kid. And I started realizing, as I'm going through this life adventure with him, that nobody stops any of these children with cystic fibrosis. They're incredible. They're amazing. They don't understand the word no. They get up every morning, do what they're supposed to do. They go to bed at night, do what they're supposed to do. They take a fistful of pills. I mean, I take more pills in a year than I hope to take in my whole life, right? So as I'm doing this, I meet all these crazy, incredible people like Mike, like Dr. Bell, and like all the parents of the CF people in this world, right? You go to a Great Strides. I sit down one day. Some gentleman sitting next to me on a rock. We're doing Great Strides. Dylan needed a break. It was a hot, sunny day, beautiful day in Chicago. He looks at me. He goes, how old's your son? I go, he goes at me. He goes, he's 6? I go, no, he's 5. He goes, oh, how's he doing? I go, well, right now he's doing okay. I go, it's different. I'm only 2 years into this disease, right? And he goes, he's going to be just fine. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I lost my son to cystic fibrosis, but that was years ago. With today's research, the foundation, and what they're doing, I'm going to tell you, your son's going to be fine. And that just perked me up a little bit, and I said, okay. He told me it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine, right? Well, then life does its little things, ups and downs. Well, later on in life, I'm working with the foundation, doing whatever I can to make things happen, because I'm not a scientist, raising some funds, and my son has 2 very rare mutations, both of them. I'm like, well, we'll get to the research is going. We're going to get to the population first, and somewhere that's going to whittle down to Dylan. I am at the O'Hare Airport. I'm in the security line with my business partner, and I get a phone call from Dr. McCauley, whom a lot of you probably know, and she says, Dan, I got to tell you, I need you in the office next week with Dylan. We're going to start him on Kalydeco. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, he's got the rare mutation. She goes, the filter clicked on his mutation. He's one of 1,200 patients that are going to get Kalydeco in this country. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I walk out of the security line, because I'm crying, as I do a lot with cystic fibrosis. And I walk out, and my partner's like, what are you doing? I said, just go ahead, man. Just going to Vegas. I said, just go ahead. I'll meet you there. And I ended up getting on the flight and getting there, and a week later, Dylan's asking me 1,000 questions when he finds out about Kalydeco. He's just started rambling. I'm like, Dylan, I don't know. We'll be in the doctor's office next week. You can ask all the questions you want. And man, Dylan doesn't say very many words very often, but man, we hit that doctor visit that day. He couldn't shut up. What about this? What about that? What about this? I'm like, great. So we get all done with all this, and when cystic fibrosis hits your life, it puts this big black cloud over your life. Now, whether you know it or not, your whole family has a cloud over it. And it's not a nice cloud. It's kind of a doomy one. And that day, that cloud was lifted from my family's life. It disappeared that day. He started Kalydeco. And I'm telling you, that shit's real. All right? So that day, as we're going through this meeting, I'm going to admit something to you tonight that I've never admitted through this whole process, that I spent a lot of times in my life, and I never admitted this to anyone, not my closest friends, nobody, wondering what I was going to say at my son's funeral, at his services. I kept thinking, what am I going to say about this wonderful little man whose life was cut short by this disease? I have to back up 1 minute. 2 years prior to Dylan getting Kalydeco, Dr. McCauley said, Dan, I need to speak you away from Dylan. I said, sure, what do you got to say? She goes, I'm having a hard time controlling your son's disease. He's traveling at a 23-year-old patient, not a 30-year-old patient. And that was when Dylan was 13. At age 15, he got Kalydeco. So here we go, from 2 years before, telling me he's going to die young. I looked at her, I said, you know what, Doc, you're not telling me anything I don't know. I'm in the hospital all the time. I see what's going on. 2 years later, hey, Kalydeco's here. Life's all good, right? So all of a sudden, as I'm crying in the office that day, I start chuckling at the same time. And the reason was because what went through my mind was, I no longer have to worry about what I'm going to say at my son's services. He's got to worry about what he's going to say at mine. And I said, it better be good. Last notion. This is the last part, I promise. We're sitting at a dinner table once at my sister's house. My son's probably 12 years old, 11 years old. He just looks up at me and goes, Dad, am I going to die? And I look over at my sister, and she just starts doing one of these. I go, you know what, Dylan? Yeah, we're all going to die someday. It's just not going to be today. Don't worry about it. And that's how he went through life, saying, Dad's going to take care of it. And that's why I say, I go through it happy-go-lucky, but at nighttime I'm not so happy-go-lucky. I'm concerned because as a parent, CF parent, and the leader of a family, you have to be the strong person. You have to be confident, and you have to believe from deep down in your heart that it's going to be okay, because you know why? It is. We got some remarkable scientists working on this deal, and they're nailing it. And I tell you, if you ever have a chance to go to Johns Hopkins, Bethesda, Maryland, go do it, because it's a weird experience. You'll walk out of there feeling like the stupidest person in the world. So Dylan, he's graduating from high school. He's hoping to go to the University of Colorado. He goes to bed every night not worrying about whether he's going to die or taking care of his disease. He goes to bed every night worrying about snowboarding. That's why he wants to go to the University of Colorado. Worrying about girls and worrying about cars. And that's exactly where he should be. But he's also extremely thankful for the gift he's been given, and he knows he's been given a gift, the gift of life. And we all have to believe that we're going to make that continue and solve this issue and cure it and make it go away forever. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dan, for that. I think that was great. Our next award is the CF Star Award, which is an award that's given to a volunteer who's actually living with cystic fibrosis, who has furthered awareness, impacted fundraising efforts, and shown outstanding leadership. The person who's the recipient of this award, unfortunately, isn't here, but we have a video for her acceptance speech. But prior to playing that, I want to welcome up Dr. R.V. Stone of Advocate Lutheran General CF Care Center in Park Ridge, who will present this next award.
Good evening to all of you. I want to thank the foundation for inviting me to do this tonight. This award is going to Rosie Woods, who, there she is on her bicycle. Rosie was born in 1961, and I'm sure that when she was born, her parents were probably told that she wouldn't live to be more than 7 or 8 years old, but she defied that prediction quite well. She was the 11th of 11 children born to her parents. Her father was, if you're Chicagoans, Sheriff Joe Woods, who was quite well known in the Chicago area, obviously. She has been my patient now for about 20 years. I've been very fortunate to have her. She was the poster child for CF in the late 60s. And at one of her clinic visits, she came with her mother, who at that time was probably in her late 80s, and her mom pulled out this photograph of, after the whole visit was over, and then she waits, the mom's been waiting. She pulls out the picture of Rosie with sitting on President Nixon's lap. So it was just, Rosie was, of course, burying her head under her arms, but it was a great picture, and it's a wonderful thing. And over the years, Rosie has really given all to the foundation here. She's participated in many fundraising events, and I suspect that this picture was taken at the most recent cycling event last summer when she managed to ride 30 miles, and I don't even think I could do that. So, and Rosie is very smart. She got out of the Chicago winter and is in Florida, so congratulations to Rosie, and thank you for having me tonight.
Hi everyone, sorry I can't be with you tonight. I'm in Florida where it's warm and sunny. I am honored to be chosen as this year's Star Award recipient. For obvious reasons, CF awareness is very much a passion of mine. As an adult with CF, I feel it's important for us as adults to help each generation dealing with all facets of CF. For me, I want to help the younger generation. When I was a child, there was no adult for me to ask questions. My parents did so much fundraising with me as a child that I feel it is my responsibility as an adult to carry on the tradition. Last year, as a 54-year-old adult with CF, I had the crazy idea to participate in Cycle for Life. I trained hard and got ready. I was all ready to do it, and just like CF, 4 weeks before, I ended up in the hospital for 14 days. The nurses, who were great, brought me an exercise bike into my room so that I would not lose my leg strength. 10 days before Cycle for Life, I started on Orkambi. What an emotional day that was. I felt the weight of all of the CF patients that passed before me on my shoulders when I took that pill. I could hardly swallow the pills because of the tears of joy. I did do the 30 miles, which was quite an accomplishment for me on Cycle for Life. I'm happy to share my journey with anyone who will listen. I don't think there's anyone who knows me who doesn't know about CF. They know me as Rosie, who also has CF, not that girl with CF, Rosie. And that is a huge distinction. Because CF patients can no longer be together in person, I try to do as much of my connections online with CF patients and parents. Excuse me. If there's any encouragement or assistance I can give them, I always try to help. Honestly, I think it helps me more than it helps them because I feel like if I can help them, I am. There are so many brave CF patients out there. I have been doing CF awareness since 1967 when I was a national poster child. Advancements have come such a long way since that time, but we are not done. I will continue to raise awareness until the day that cystic fibrosis is cured, and that will be an amazing day. Thank you again for this award. And please, if anyone ever needs help or encouragement, you can always get in touch with me. I'm always willing to help. Thank you.
Okay. We're getting down to our last award. So our final award of the evening is Volunteer of the Year. And I'm very happy to ask Laura Wise to come up and present that award. And Laura, as you heard about earlier, has really been instrumental in leading some of our adult outreach activities here in the Greater Chicago chapter. She serves on the executive committee of our local board of directors with a few of us that are in the room tonight. And so I think she's been a great addition and helps give us the perspective of the CF patient and all the decisions and things that we're doing. So I'm very happy to welcome her to the stage to present this last award of the evening. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Hi. I was so excited that you guys asked me to present this award to Lori. I personally work with Lori at Lurie Children's, where I go to my CF clinic appointment. She is a social worker there, and we also are on the board together. And Lori is instrumental in this adult outreach committee, truly. Attend every meeting, just has great ideas. And the most exciting thing I think that we've done together is it was Lori's idea to do a meetup. As Rosie mentioned, we're not supposed to be in the same room. And Lori had the idea that the adults with CF would like to communicate with each other in a non-stressful situation. We do a meetup group. We've used many different things. It's kind of sometimes doesn't work, but we all really try. And it's just awesome because Lori, you know, she emails us, she texts us, she gets us all together as a group. She instrumentally runs the group, but lets us talk, and it's been amazing. So Lori is always available. She follows up after an appointment with you, an email, or you just know she's always smiling and happy, and she's just really, truly what you need as a social worker in the CF community. Lori also, it's awesome because it's her job, but she's personally committed. I mean, she's on the board. She does stuff with endurance. I just heard her volunteer to work your event. Didn't we hear that? She's going to be doing Shamrockin'. So, I mean, gets the team together for great strides. You all had shirts this year. She makes competition between Lurie Children's and Northwestern. It's just awesome. You are amazing, and thank you so much for all that you do for the foundation.
All right, as you can tell from my picture, I'm just the noisy one. So there's a lot of people behind me. Yeah, I'm acting like an athlete, so it's great. So there's a lot of people behind this very cool plaque. You know, I have to just thank a few people, and you'll see how we're all a team. My parents taught me that it's a given to volunteer, so I've had this my entire life. My friends who have no connection to CF, like my dear friend Mary, who's my mentor, who's here, always support me and are volunteering with me, donating everything. And then there's really good friends like Renee, who had the crazy idea to cycle with me at the very first one, right? Yeah, so I have really good friends that support me. The Illinois chapter, I mean, what a chapter, right? What a chapter! We really can blame Molly Riley for me, okay? She was like, I think Lori's a fundraiser. I actually had never done fundraising until I got into CF. And Molly's like, Lori, why don't you try this event planning committee? Maybe you'd like this. What about cycle? So she really just motivated me and mentored me into it. And then Brian, Amy, all the staff, you're always game for what I ask for, including IT support, wherever Aaron is. Which helped Laura and me with the group. And then next, the Northwestern team. I mean, Joanne, Manu, crazy enough that you invited me to come work with you. What a stellar team. I have to run to keep up with you. You give so much to the foundation, the entire team, and this has been such a gift to me personally to work with all of you. And then last, and most important, people living with CF. So, fortunately or unfortunately, I know a huge number of people living with CF, and I care about all of them very much, and so that motivates me. And those that are close to me know that when I'm angry, I kind of don't let it go. And I'm like, we got to do more. So I think this was a good match with me and the CF Foundation. And so thank you to Laura and to others in my life that are close to me, that you motivate me, you inspire me, and we have a lot more work to do. So let's go.
Okay, so Lori, don't go sit down yet because I'm about to call up all the award winners back to get a picture. So congratulations to everybody that won an award. If I could we get everybody that won an award that is here, come up to the stage real quick and we're gonna get one picture. And then I also wanna recognize all the staff members from the foundation, and then I'll kind of close it down and we'll end up. And we're actually about right on time right now. So everybody that won an award, come on up, let's get a quick picture, and let's give them all a big round of applause one last time. Okay, so if you look up at the slides, this has got dates of some of our upcoming special events, which include some Great Strides dates and some of the different galas that we have going on. And so I'd like to take a minute to just recognize all the CF staff. You've heard about it. We're thanking all the volunteers today. And I think a lot of us who have worked with the folks that are part of the staff know just how important a role they play in all of this. And what you guys have here in Chicago is a group of really compassionate staff members who actually take time to get to know the families. I can't tell you how many times somebody from the foundation asked me, how are the boys doing, Lou? How is Dylan and Michael? How's Mary? Hi, Mary, if you're watching at home on the live stream. I probably need to speak a few minutes about her too, because how amazing she is. But you got a great group of people here. So I'm just gonna, do you guys want to come to the stage or just stand? Or I'm just gonna list everybody's name. You guys just, come up to the stage real quick to be recognized. So Brian, the executive director, Amy, the associate executive director, Michelle, David, Stephanie, Sarah, Cheryl, Carolyn, Emily, Aaron, Natalie, Will, and Amanda. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Come on up.
We have a question.
Okay, cool. You guys should get a quick picture. Okay, this makes me really happy. We have a question for Preston, I think. Okay, so this is a question that came in online, so you don't get off the hook without one question. You got to answer one, Preston. What do you perceive as the biggest challenge facing CFF in the immediate few years, and how do you see volunteers as helping or supporting this challenge?
Are we near the end? Because that's actually not a bad one to almost end on. So that's an easy answer, actually. So the biggest challenge, the biggest fear that I have is that people think we're done. People think we're done with the science, that it's played out. They think we're done with fundraising, it's played out. we have a lot more to do if we want to be truly successful. So the story that you've heard tonight, as a fundraiser, tell that story, because I think the best is yet to come, and we need to close this deal. So I think that's my biggest fear, is that people think that we are done when we're not.
Great. Thanks, Preston. So I'll end with just a few words. Want to thank Preston again and the folks that came from Bethesda for being here tonight. I think it means a lot to us as a chapter, and it was great to hear the update and give the people in the room a sense of where we're going. I want to thank Vertex and Walgreens again, for helping us and for the use of the technology and the live streaming. Thanks to everybody who did tune in to the live streaming. I said I would say a few words about my wife, which I need to do. So my wife Mary's at home. She would have loved to have been here, but she's at home taking care of the kids, and she's, like many CF moms, just an amazing, amazing mother and parent and supporter in this fight. She's incredibly creative. She's the driving force behind all the fundraising that we do and the success that we have on Great Strides. She's an incredible writer. She has a blog out there, which she hasn't written in a while. She needs to start that up again, but she's got a really good way of kind of combining the emotion, the humor, and everything. So if it's her blog is twosaltyboys.com. So if anybody ever wants to check that out, there's some great stories on that about just our journeys and our journey with this disease. So when I look out amongst this room, I see a lot of friends, a lot of people that I know, some people that I don't know that well. For me, I really enjoyed hearing, the stories and the personal touches from the folks who either presented an award to somebody or some of the recipients who received awards. And, when I first got involved in this organization, almost like Dan was saying, I put on the happy face immediately, and I said, I got to get involved in this fight. What can I do? I got instantly involved. And, at first it was somewhat, blind optimism, and by profession, I'm a CPA. I'm a partner at a professional service firm, and I'm an auditor. So I'm skeptical by nature. I'm skeptical of everything. And if Mary is watching, she knows, and it drives her nuts that I always say I doubt that, or I don't know about that. And so to be given the weight of, what is cystic fibrosis and how am I going to deal with this and how am I going to fight it? What can I do? There's a little skepticism at first, but the minute I got involved in this organization and got to meet people like Bob, like Preston, like Rich Mattingly, who is just a huge part of this foundation for a long, long time, I wasn't skeptical anymore, and I kind of could see from my first few times of going to the national office and going to the volunteer leadership conference and seeing where we were going with as an organization, where we've been, how much we've accomplished, that it was no longer blind optimism. It was very much optimism supported by results that we've seen. You've seen some of it today, and the thing that keeps me excited is exactly the way Preston just answered that last question, and the way I think about what we're doing as an organization is we're not done. We've had incredible results. It'd be very easy for an organization to sit back and say, look what we've accomplished. But every time we've had a success, they've appropriately planned for what's next, what's the future. And I'm really happy to be part of an organization that wants to dream big. And I think, as folks who are very involved with this, know that you're a part of something really special. So you should be proud of the accomplishments that we've had, and you should know that the things we're talking about, while they might have huge impacts for cystic fibrosis, the things we're talking about have huge implications to other genetic diseases. If we can crack this nut, if we can help drive the progress in the science, it's not only going to benefit folks with CF, it's going to benefit the entire medical community, and that's something that you should remember and take with you as you tell the story about it. And so I think all of us here, we possess a unique understanding of the struggle associated with this disease, as I said before, and I think that's a big part of the special sauce that has propelled us. And I just want to thank you all again from the bottom of my heart. As a parent and someone that's directly affected, we really appreciate everything you do, and I think this was a great celebration tonight, and now let's go forward and move into action and keep doing what we're doing. So thank you all. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. It's great.